Okay, hello everyone, and a very good evening to one and all. I hope I am properly audible and you are listening to how to excel RC. That's what the session is all about. And when we talk about this particular session, which is how to excel in reading comprehension. So, why this particular session specifically? Because when we talk about CAT reading comprehension section, 80% of the questions are reading comprehension. So it's very important to understand what exactly this session is all about, how to tackle the passages, what are the difficulties basically which is faced by students as far as RC is concerned. So we'll talk about in this particular session, number of questions, kind of questions, the sources from which CAT takes their RCs from, and how to tackle these reading comprehension, what are do's and don'ts of reading comprehension. And then if time permits, we will also see we'll also solve the passage live in this particular session. So start karte hain how to excel reading comprehension, all tips and tricks to ace reading comprehension as a section. So before I start, I generally when I start the session, I generally believe that you should know that what exactly this reading comprehension is all about and how many questions are there in reading comprehension. What is this passage? What is this passage? What are these passages and what this session comprises of? So when we talk about, if I talk about last 3 year comparison as far as reading comprehension is concerned, so 2024, 2023, and 2022. So these are the three years we are talking about. And generally, when students say that reading comprehension or let's say VRC section in CAT is unpredictable, so I just want to break that myth as of now. So if I talk about last 3 years comparison, I'm talking about CAT 2024, I'm talking about CAT 2023 and 2022 as well. So if you see last 3 years, number of questions more or less is same. We are talking about 16 odd questions from last 3 years. And when I'm saying 16, generally it is in 4 by 4. The number of questions is 4 by 4, which means number of 4 passages with 4 questions each. So this is how the questions and passages are arranged as far as reading comprehension is concerned. If I talk about genres, right? So you see here, you can expect passages on sociology. So when it is sociology, business and economics, science and tech. So these genres specifically are repetitive, and you can see these kind of genres in last 4 5 years. If you see CAT paper, if you see reading comprehension genres, you can expect passages on these 4 5 genres in specific, the common genres. We are talking about philosophy, we are talking about science and technology. If you see, we are talking about environment, we are talking about business and economics. So all these genres, they are very common. So students are expected. So ये मैं particular Excel क्यों दिखा रहा हूँ? Why I'm showing this particular Excel? See, these are the kind of topics which you should be well aware of. So read something on stuff like that. And very important, sources, right? When I'm saying sources, I'm saying that CAT, if you see over the years, last 6 7 years, if you see, so typically these are the sources from which CAT have taken their passages from. So economists for that matter. So last year, 2024, if you see 3 slots put together, or for that matter 2023, economist source जो है वो बहुत ज़्यादा predominantly आया है in these passages. Then we are talking about Smithsonian Mag, we are talking about Guardian, we are talking about Nature.com, NY Times, Aeon Essays, Jester, Press Reader. So if you see all these sources, they are taken from foreign sources. I mean, the passages are taken from foreign sources. Now, this, I'm not saying a student who has started his or her preparation right now and not much comfortable with reading. My suggestion is don't go ahead और आप यहाँ से पढ़ना शुरू कर दीजिए, because it is a process, it's not an event. Slowly and gradually you will be comfortable with such topics, but initially when you are in your initial stages of preparation, and when you start reading from such sources, you might face problem, difficulty, and you might say कि नहीं मेरे से verbal ability या reading comprehension नहीं होगा. So initially take passages, take topics in which you are comfortable with. You can start with your comfortable genre, comfortable topics, right? You can start with some basic read, and gradually you shift to these kind of sources, but eventually you have to reach, because CAT will ask passages from such sources. And at last, when I'm talking about percentile, right, to hit 99 percentile, that's what session today is all about. So roughly out of 16 odd questions, we are talking about 10 to 13 odd attempts, and more or less every year these attempts approximately same. So 10 to 13, 10 to 12 odd attempts with 80 to 85% accuracy is something which will land you to a 99 percentile. So roughly when we say somewhere between 40 to 45 odd marks is what is expected to hit a 99.5 percentile odd in CAT examination. So first of all, you should be aware that how many passages are there. So we are talking about 4 passages in total. You should be aware what kind of reading is required. You should also know from which all sources you should read, and at the end of the day you should also know about attempts as well before we dwell deep down into reading comprehension, right? I hope this is clear. Now I'll take you guys to do's and don'ts of reading comprehension, which I think is very important. I'll try to explain these points one by one. So the first thing which I want to focus on is, very importantly, read, right? That's the only mantra to success as far as VARC section is concerned. And in that, specifically, if I have to say, patience is the key to success, right? Because I've seen students with their initial stages, 1 year, 1 month, 2 month down the line, right? They were like, sir, verbal nahi ho raha, ya फिर reading comprehension nahi ho raha, vocabulary के अंदर challenges आ रहे हैं. Please understand, you are developing your reading habits. You were not reading earlier, and now you are developing your reading habits. Or for that matter, आप पढ़ते थे, but your genre was very much restricted, maybe to fiction, maybe to a certain kind of a genre, maybe someone who's interested with books related to polity or a psychology. Now here you can expect passages from a diverse genre. So it's very important. Just be patient. Slowly and gradually, I'm sure you will hit the right thing, and you will ace reading comprehension. But you need to be very patient in doing that, right? So on D-Day, right? Because it's a process, as I said. Just go on, keep on reading. I'm sure that if you can just follow the process on your D-Day, you will be able to crack 10 to 12 questions. That's what I mentioned, to hit your desired percentile. But keep on reading. Don't leave that. Don't give up in between saying that कि मैं maths quants कर लूंगा और LRDI कर लूंगा, but reading comprehension के अंदर उस दिन देखा जाएगा. I think that kind of approach will not take you to the desired percentile, and eventually you'll not be able to get a call from your desired B schools. Second, don't force pressure on yourself. Comprehension is the key. What do you mean by forcing pressure on myself? When I'm saying comprehension is the key, very important, you need to understand that I have seen students, right? They just want to read fast so that they have to complete all the 4 passages. My take on this is focus on accuracy in your initial stages of preparation, right? When I'm taking 4 passages, you start with 2 passages if your reading speed is really low, right? You take 2 passages, aram se, right? You just take 20 minutes for that matter, or for that matter, take 30 minutes, no problem, right? You have 40 minutes, 10 minutes for verbal ability. You take 30 minutes and take, let's say, 2 reading comprehension passages, which means you are giving 15 minutes for per passage 1 and passage 2. Right now, 15 minutes in which you comprehend it properly. Now, let's suppose if I have to give you example, in that 30 minutes, we have, let's say, solved 2 passages with 8 questions. And let's say, agar aapne 7 questions correct kar diye hain, still you will end up getting 20 marks, right? Please understand this thing. You will still end up getting 20 marks, and you will still end up getting 80 plus percentile. And what if, let's say, you are solving 4 passages, but your comprehension is not that great? और लेट्स से अगर आपने 16 क्वेश्चन सॉल्व कर लिए और 16 क्वेश्चन में से लेट्स से you have marked 10 questions correct, and let's say 6 questions incorrect. So what we are talking about is, we are talking about, let's say, 30 minus 6, we are talking about again 24 odd marks. And let's say अगर यहाँ पर accuracy और dip होता है, अगर let's say मैं still 16 questions अगर मान लो करता हूँ, और उसके अंदर if let's say this thing is reverse, which means 6 questions correct and 10 questions incorrect, so आप देखिए आपके मार्क्स कितना डिप हो जाएंगे, राइट? सो प्लीज मेक श्योर योर कॉम्प्रिहेंशन इज समथिंग विच इज वेरी 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 इंपॉर्टेंट. अगर आपके इसके अंदर ये वाला सिनेरियो रह गया, मतलब इफ योर कॉम्प्रिहेंशन इज नॉट दैट ग्रेट, if you are solving 4 passages. If you end up in getting this scenario 1, still it's fine. But you think if you end up getting scenario 2, you will mess up your overall percentile, your overall score big time. So my suggestion is focus on accuracy. That is point number 1, at least in your initial stages of preparation, right? That is something which is required. Very important when we are talking about reading comprehension. I've seen students that vocabulary. So if I talk about vocabulary, you won't be able to understand all the words. You won't be able to understand probably 100% of 100% or the entire passage, all vocabulary, all words, right? You might you might miss certain idea in between. You might miss certain lines, right? Or you might, let's say, get detached from the passage. So something might happen. So overall, you have to understand the tone of the passage, whether it is positive, whether it is negative, whether it is neutral. Try to get the idea of the passage, right? What exactly is the idea towards the subject, the tone towards the subject? That is something which is very, very important. Even if you get lost somewhere in between with 1 or 2 paragraphs here and there, but if, let's say, you are able to get your intro right, your conclusion right, I'm sure you still will be able to at least do 2 questions out of 4, which is a good thing to start. So initial level pe, again, I'm telling you, 2 passages are also okay. Let's say out of 8 questions, if you are still 6 to 7 doable questions, if you will get, I'm telling you, you are in a very right direction, and slowly and gradually will increase. Very important. The next point which I want to mention here is understand the what and why of the passage. Now, what is this what and why? Because when you talk about CAT questions, we always say that CAT generally ask idea-based questions. Now, when we talk about idea-based questions are generally the why of the passage, right? अगर आपको कहीं पर भी ये देखना है कि what exactly is the main idea. So all these main idea thing, there's a lot of discussion going around what is main idea, what is main idea. The simplest way to solve this main idea thing is asking why author has written this particular passage. What does, why author has written this particular passage? And if you can answer that why, I am telling you the main idea is something which has been taken care of. And majority of the student basically struggle to understand this why. And when we talk about what of the passage, what is the summary? Right? So when we talk about why is the idea and what is the summary? These 2 things are very important. And whenever you are reading, generally, this is what I convey when I get into my reading comprehension classes, that if you have to find out the main idea, just try to answer the why. And why, if you can find out, you're strengthening the argument, weakening the argument, what does author want to convey, why author has given that particular example, why author has quoted that particular example, all these questions can be taken care of. And this will also help you to eliminate options as well, because if we have understood why of the passage, now you know basically that if the why is positive or negative, you will also be able to eliminate the options as well. So that's what and why of the passage. And very important, I've seen students that I will start with my favorite genre, right? This misconception, I think you should refrain from doing this particular thing, that picking out your favorite genre, right? Because uh, you might it might be easy for you to read, but not sure that will you be able to comprehend the questions. So my take on this is, don't go with such trap that trying to find out your favorite genre. Just go with it. And these are some of the pointers which you need to take care of while solving reading comprehension, right? So this is what you need to understand. Now, very important, elimination is the key to success in reading comprehension, right? So don't fall into that trap of finding out the right answer, right? Just try to eliminate the options. I think that is something which is needed, right? So there's nothing called as right. There is nothing called as best answer. There is always one right answer. And this is something which is very much required, elimination. Second, when we are talking about prior knowledge, definitely helps in reading. आपको कोई भी पैसेज, इसलिए वी ऑलवेज से दैट जितना आप रीडिंग करते हैं न्यूज़पेपर, करंट अफेयर्स, If I talk about current context, the more you are reading about artificial intelligence, the more you are reading about space technology, the more you are reading about, Meta, Avatar, all those stuff. So this prior knowledge will definitely help you in reading, but don't apply while solving questions, because I've seen students applying the prior knowledge while solving questions, because if you do that, majority of the time will end up marking the wrong option. So please make sure don't apply prior knowledge while solving option, but it will definitely help you while reading for sure. Because if you are not comfortable with that topic, right, that is something wherein you will struggle to read. Your reading speed goes down. You will find difficulty in comprehending as well, right? These are the things which you need to take care of before you get into, the reading comprehension, right? Now, a 5-step process which you need to take care of while solving reading comprehension. I'd say it's a 5-step process. First, I have already mentioned this: read the passage. That's very obvious. Every word, every line once, but very important, with 100% concentration. Because if you're not concentrating on those line and word, right, that is where the problem might come. And when you talk about, let's say, inference based questions, you will find many inference based questions, right? Or inference based questions can be asked from, let's say, any line, any paragraph, right? There can be many inference based questions. So if your concentration is lost, that's where, you will find it difficult to solve inference based question. That is one. Define the essence of the passage to yourself. Again, talking about the why of the passage, the idea based questions I'm talking about. Now, I have seen students saying that, sir, I'm very much comfortable with this topic. I've understood this passage well. I have comprehended this passage well, and they are right as well. Because when we discuss with students, they have very well understood the passage. But the idea is, questions also needs to be understood. Very importantly, what is being asked, right? Because I've seen students, options are there from the passage, but the question has been asked, let's say, from the third paragraph or the fourth paragraph, and the options given to you are from the first paragraph, which is not related to the idea from which the question has been asked. So please make sure you need to understand the question well, and then only you start eliminating the option. Just because any option is given from the passage, that doesn't mean that you have to mark that option, right? That's point number 3. Elimination, I've already discussed. The wrong option first, that is the first thing you need to do, and don't look out for the correct answer. And at last, decide which among the last two options is more correct, and that is where the problem is, right? We'll talk about this fifth step, but read, define, question, eliminate. These are the 4 things you need to take care of. And at last, when you're coming to step 5, that's where a lot of discussion needs to be done. We'll talk about that. Talking about the time management breakdown. So reading the passage, right? I'm talking about a D-Day on your day of your CAT examination. So 3.5 minute to 4 minute is something which is required reading a passage, right? Reading each question and option, because you need to practice. Why I'm telling you this time management breakdown at this point of time? Because when you are reading newspaper, or let's say any blog or any article online from all these sources which I've just mentioned, or from which CAT takes their passages from. So there, while reading, you need to cultivate, you need to inculcate this habit to read. If I talk about timeline, if you see 3.5 minute to 4 minute, so roughly you have 500 to 550 words per passage. So typically you need a reading speed of close to around 100 words per minute. That is what it is required. Reading each question and option, 25 seconds to 30 seconds is what it is needed to read each question and option. Going back to the passage might require wherever there are specific idea-based questions, right? There is nothing wrong in going back to the passage. You should definitely go, because if you're not going and referring from that passage, you might end up marking the wrong option as well. And this has to be done when you're not able to decide on which option you need to mark. That is where this going back to the passage will definitely help. And debating between last two options will take another 15 seconds. So solving each questions might take anywhere between 40 seconds to 90 seconds. Why I'm saying 40 seconds to 90 seconds? Because if you understood the idea well, if you understand the tone of the passage, and let's say if you understand, if you have understood your question as well, So maybe your option 1, which might be the answer, you don't even have to look out for option 2, 3, 4 for that matter. So solving each RCs might take 7 to 10 minutes, as I said, and 30 to 33 odd minutes is the total time student should give while solving reading comprehension. Now, coming to the common perception generally that I make mistakes when I'm confused between two options, and I always mark the wrong option. But what I say is, you have not absorbed the passage essence. You are not reading the question carefully, and very important, your reluctance to go back to the passage. If you have a debate, if you are not able to decide, just follow 1, 2, 3. राइट, आई रिपीट, पहला हमने देखा 5 स्टेप प्रोसेस, हम पहले रीड कर रहे हैं अच्छी तरीके से, राइट, दैट इज व्हाट वी हैव सन, दैट इज व्हाट वी हैव सीन, हम लोग पहले रीडिंग करने की बात कर रहे हैं, देन वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट डिफाइनिंग द पैसेज, मेन आइडिया, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट कॉम्प्रिहेंडिंग द क्वेश्चन, एलिमिनेटिंग एंड डिसाइडिंग, एंड जब आप डिसाइडिंग पे आ गए हैं उसके बाद अगर आपको देखना है तो दिस इज द 3 स्टेप प्रोसेस अगेन व्हिच यू नीड टू टेक केयर ऑफ. Absorb the passage essence, read the question carefully, and don't hesitate to go back to the passage. So these are the 3 things which you need to take care of, right? So अगर आप ये कर लेते हैं, so मेरे ख्याल से तब आपके पास ये प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगी that I always end up marking the wrong option, right? This is something which will get eliminated. Now let's take 4 minutes to read this particular passage, right? And then we'll start. So you can pause this video for a while if you are listening later on, if you're not reading this passage live. But for those who have joined in through live chat, or who are already listening to this particular live session, I'm giving you 4 to 5 minutes to read this particular passage. I hope it is clear now, dear. Let's start discussing this passage, and let's see if we can get an idea, right, how we will be able to eliminate the options and mark eliminate the options and make sure that we are marking the right option, right? So let's understand, right? I'll go paragraph wise. So recently a new school of economics, so we are talking about new school of economics called the steady state economics, right? So that's point number 1 what we are talking about. Sorry for this. So steady state economics is what we are talking about, and it has seriously challenged the neoclassical school, right? Very sorry for this. So what they have done is they have challenged the neoclassical thing, right? what neoclassical, which was the school in Western, very predominantly school in Western economic decision making, right? So steady state economics, this is a new school, and what they have done is they have challenged the old school or a very predominant school, which was a neoclassical and which was predominant in the Western economic decision making. So according to the neoclassical model, what they are saying is economy is a closed system. So they what they used to say, that economy jo hai, that's a closed system involving only the circular flow of exchange between producers and consumers. So I'm just trying to highlight or mark important things here. So we're talking about a new school, which is a steady state economics. And what they have done is they have challenged whom a neoclassical, the predominant school in Western economic decision making. And what they used to say, that economy is a closed system, a circular flow of exchanging the values between producer and consumers. Therefore, no non-economic constraint impinge upon the economy, and growth has no limits. Indeed, some neoclassical economists argue that growth itself is crucial because they claim the solution to problem often associated with growth can be found only in capital that further growth creates. So they are saying that growth is crucial, right? And agar growth hi nahi hoga, if growth is not there, then it might create a lot of problem. And the solution to the problem itself is the capital that further growth creates. The growth will create the capital, and that capital is again the solution. And solution for what? For the further growth. So that's what a neoclassical mode used to say. So very important what they have mentioned here is they have mentioned therefore no non-economic constraint. So no non-economic constraint is there. So gradually it's a circular path. It will go on and on and on. That's what neoclassical is saying. Now, steady state economists, so they also have their own explanation. They say that they believe that the neoclassical model to be unrealistic and hold that economy is dependent on nature. So they have introduced a very important concept, nature, that economy is dependent on that. Resources, they argue, which enter as a raw material and exit as a consumed products or waste. The greater the sources, the greater the size of the economy. According to these economists, nature's limited capacity to regenerate raw material and absorb water waste suggests that there is an optimal size for the economy, and growth beyond this idle point would increase the cost to the environment at a faster rate than the benefit to producer and consumer, and generating cycles that impoverish rather than enrich. तो वो क्या बोल रहे हैं यहाँ पर कि रिसोर्सेज थोड़े रिस्ट्रिक्टेड है. उन्होंने क्या बोला था? नो नॉन इकोनॉमिक स्ट्रेट. और यहां पर उन्होंने क्या बोला? इट डिपेंड्स ऑन नेचर. और नेचर के रिसोर्सेज क्या है? नेचर के रिसोर्सेज आर रिस्ट्रिक्टेड, राइट? एंड अगर हम इन नेचर के रिस्ट्रिक्टेड रिसोर्सेज को इफ वी गो ऑन एंड ऑन एंड ऑन, सो रादर देन एनरिच, व्हाट दे मेंशन इज they will impoverish. That's a very important thing which they have mentioned, right? So that's how they were different. That's how they were different from the neoclassical mode. So I will just mark here as well, impoverish rather than enrich. That's sorry for this. Yeah, so that's what they have mentioned. So yeah. Steady state economists thus believe that the concept of an ever growing economy is dangerous. So they say कि जो neoclassical लोग बोलते थे कि capital will growth capital से growth आएगा, growth से again circular movement चलेगा, so that is dangerous, and economy should remain in equilibrium with nature. And neoclassical economists on the other hand said nature to be just one element of the economy. It was only one element of the economy. That's what they have mentioned, rather than a outside constraint, which means आपके और भी element हो सकते हैं, believing that natural resources, if depleted, अगर natural resource खत्म हो भी जाएंगे, it can be replaced with other elements, that is a human-made resources, that will allow the economy to continue with its process of unlimited growth. So I'll repeat it again. So first neoclassical said they were talking about growth, and then it is there is a no constraint, but steady state economists said that yes, there are constraints because natural resources are limited. Then to counter that, neoclassical said that even if natural sources are depleted, we have human made resources as well, so don't worry. Some steady state economists pointing to the widening disparity between the indices of actual growth and the index of environmentally sustainable growth believe that Western economies have already exceeded their optimal size. So we have already exceeded the optimal size. So already हमारा equilibrium खराब हो गया है. And in response to the warning from the neoclassical economist that checking economic growth only leads to stagnation. अब नियोक्लासिकल क्या कह रहे हैं कि आप ये जो चेक कर रहे हैं ये इससे इकोनॉमिक स्टैग्नेशन हो जाएगा, राइट? Again, they are saying there are alternatives to growth, or there are alternatives to growth that still accomplish what is required of any economy, the satisfaction of human wants. One of the alternative is conservation, they said, right? So conservation, for example, increasing the efficiency of resource used through means such as recycling differs from growth that is qualitative, not quantitative, requiring improvement in resource management rather than increase in the amount of resources. That's what the steady state economists said. One measure of the success of a steady state economy would be the degree which it would implement alternative to growth, such as conservation, without sacrificing the ability to satisfy the wants of producer and consumers. So what we are talking about is that steady state economists, when they have to talk about alternative resources such as conservation, and we should not sacrifice the satisfaction of producer and consumer. So keeping in mind the satisfaction of producer and consumers, how we can switch to alternate mode of conservation is what some steady state economists trying to say. So very importantly, if you see here, अगर आप यहाँ पर देखेंगे, the tone of the author towards any school of thoughts, the tone of the author is very neutral. The tone of the author is very neutral. Author is not taking side of a steady state economist or a neoclassical school of thought. What author is saying is that this is what neoclassical way of explaining the things, and that is what steady state economists argue. And at last, author is saying that let's wait and watch how these things needs to be taken care of. What is the future? So this is what, and when you have got a main idea that why this passage is written, the passage is written basically to explain the two school of thoughts, which is a steady state economist and neoclassical school of thought, how they are different and what is the point of contention between these two school of thoughts. That's where my main idea comes into picture. So that is the why of the passage. And when you talk about what of the passage, your what of the passage will also include the things in detail, right? I hope you guys have understood. Please, you can share your thoughts in chat box as well. I'll try to answer there as well. Now let's talk about the question here. So you're talking about most completely and accurately expresses the main point of the passage, right? So there are 4 options given to you, and let's see how we can eliminate the options. Let's go to option number 1. Okay? Neoclassical economist who, unlike steady state economist, very clear, okay, hold that economic growth is not subjected to outside constraint. Yes, that's what they have mentioned. Believe that nature is just one element of the economy. That's, yes, they have mentioned this as well. And that if natural resources in Western economies are depleted, they can be replaced with human-made resources. Absolutely no problem in option A. But let's see and let's understand about other options as well. As of now, I'll mark this, I'll tag this option. This can be my answer for sure. Let's talk about option B. Some neoclassical economists who, unlike steady state economists, hold that growth is crucial to health of economies, believe that the solution to certain problem in Western economies can thus be found in additional capital generated by unlimited growth. Okay, fine. Some steady state economists who, unlike neoclassical economists, hold that unlimited growth is neither possible nor desirable. Now, if I read this particular these particular set of words, I'll eliminate this option for sure. That's too extreme for sure, because they have not said that it is nor desirable and it is neither possible. Right? Unlimited growth is neither possible. They have not mentioned this. Not desirable, still, yes, we can infer, but it is neither possible. What they have mentioned is you should follow equilibrium. That's what they have mentioned. So I'll eliminate option number three, and that's not the main point of the passage. The main point of the passage is we are talking about two school of thoughts. That's what I've said, the main idea. Option D, some steady state economists who, unlike neoclassical economists, hold that optimal size of economies are limited by the availability of natural resources, believe that Western economies should limit economic growth, and that with alternatives like conservation, satisfaction of human wants need not to be sacrificed. Now, guys, very importantly, if you mark option number A, B, and D, if you mark option number A, B, and D, in option D, there are two things which needs to be seen specifically. First, we are talking about satisfaction of human wants need not to be sacrificed. That is not given in option A and B. We have to completely and accurately express the main point of the passage. We were not talking about alternatives as well, right? So these two things, and very importantly, what they mentioned was Western economies should limit economic growth. You should try to get, or you should try to attain an equilibrium. So if I read option D, I will say I'll not mark option number A and B for sure. Now, if I say option number, if I say option number E, let's see what E option has to say. Steady state and neoclassical economists who both hold, no, they are not, they are very different school of thoughts. They are not holding anything common for sure. And specifically, circular flow of exchange was not the thing which was said by steady state economists. So with this, we'll mark option number D as an answer. Any questions, any doubts? If you have any questions, any doubts, any queries, how I am eliminating the option, please, write in the chat box. I'll answer your query or concern, how I'm eliminating, what all things I'm taking care of. So these are the things. Now, if you see here, you have to go very minutely in all the words, because as I mentioned, it's not like best of 5. So typically बोलते ना मेरे को best answer mark करना है. It's not best. There's one answer which is completely and accurately expressing the main point of the passage. Is it clear? I hope it is. Let's move on to question number 2. Now, very importantly, just understand this question number 2, what they are saying. Based on the passage, neoclassical economists would likely hold that steady state economists are wrong. So neoclassical जो old school of thought था, वो कैसे बोलेंगे that steady state economists were wrong? With each of the following except, which means you have to mark that option in which neoclassical economist and steady state economist, they are agreeing to a certain point. So there are 4 options with which they disagree. They will say that steady state economists are wrong, except, which means you need to come to you need to mark that option in which these two school of thoughts are agreeing to each other. Was there any? Let's find out. Option A, the environmental ability to yield raw material is limited. Right? Now, this is where, this is what my answer is. If you see here what they have mentioned, second paragraph, last line. Second paragraph, last line. I'll just try to make it easy for you. What they have mentioned is, here you go. Believing that natural resources, if depleted, can be replaced with other elements, which means that environmental ability to yield raw material is limited. सो स्टेडी स्टेट इकोनॉमिस्ट ने भी यही बोला था, दैट्स व्हाट दे हैव मेंशन्ड कि ये नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज आएंगे। और इन्होंने क्या बोला कि अगर वो डेप्लेट हो भी गए, अगर वो डेप्लेट हो भी गए, तो अगर वो डेप्लेट हो भी गए का मतलब दे आर अग्रीइंग टू अ कॉमन थिंग दैट द एनवायरमेंटल एबिलिटी टू यील्ड रॉ मटेरियल इज लिमिटेड। इज इट क्लियर? So business info, those who have someone who's asking question why A and B also eliminated in question number 1, because they were not complete. They were not complete. That's why we have eliminated. Then someone mentioned, sir, how to concentrate in reading. You have again, it is a process, Ruchika, as I already mentioned. It's a process. Start with your comfortable topics, then you get into something which is not comfortable, or the topics with which you are not comfortable with, or the genres with which you are not comfortable with. But reading, there is no alternative to it. Okay? Now let's see B, C, D, E option as well. Natural resources are external constraint on economics. Yes, they are disagreeing because steady state economists जो है वो बोल रहे थे they are external constraint, and that's what they were saying they are not. That's what the steady state economists were talking about. The concept of unlimited economic growth is dangerous, very clearly mentioned. Western economies have exceeded their optimal size. Yes, they have mentioned they have already exceeded their optimal size. Economies have certain optimal sizes. Yes, they have a sizes. That's why D option is mentioned, right? So we'll mark option number A, and this is what the answer is. Question number 3. Thank you. Question number 3. A steady state economist, new school of thoughts, जिन्होंने न्यू स्कूल ऑफ थॉट दिया था, वुड बी लीस्ट लाइकली टू एंडोर्स which one of the following as a means of helping a steady state economy reduce growth without compromising its ability to satisfy human wants? इस क्वेश्चन को थोड़ा ध्यान से समझना. what they are talking about is कि एक स्टडी स्टेट इकोनॉमिस्ट है, लीस्ट लाइकली टू एंडोर्स steady state economy reduce growth without compromising its ability to satisfy the human wants. A manufacturer commitment to recycle its product packaging, right? ये बिल्कुल एंडोर्स करेगा. जहां उन्होंने बोला था कंजर्व रिसाइकिल करो, बिल्कुल ये एंडोर्स करेगा, राइट? दैट्स व्हाट इज देयर. और अगर रिसाइकिल करने से, प्रोडक्ट पैकेजिंग से अगर फिर भी लेट्स से कुछ हो रहा है तो इट्स ओके. अ स्टेट इकोनॉमिस्ट विल बी स्टिल ओके until the time we are recycling the product. A manufacturer decision to use a less expensive fuel in its production process, right? Now see here, still they are using a fuel for a production process. Still they are using a fuel for the production process. Less expensive है तो क्या हुआ? बिल्कुल ये आंसर हो सकता है C. Manufacture implementation of a quality control process, right? They have mentioned very clearly the last paragraph. If you see here, you should work on the qualitative aspect, not the quantitative aspect, not the quantitative aspect, right? समझना इस बात को, right? इसलिए not C for sure. A manufacturing conversion from one time of production process to another with greater fuel efficiency. You are efficiently using. Between B and D, आप efficiently use नहीं कर रहे हैं. वो बोल रहा है fuel less use करो, but करते रहो, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. D is talking about with a greater fuel efficiency. And E option is talking about reduction of output in order to eliminate a overproduction problem. Why E won't be the answer? Because we are talking about reduction of output. And very clearly a steady state economist said that हमें consumers और manufacturers की satisfaction को ध्यान में रखते हुए we have to make sure their satisfaction should not be compromised. We have to work out a solution, and that is the reason why we are marking option number B. Is it clear? So that's where we are talking about least likely to endorse. That's what we are talking about. Okay? Okay, question number 4. What they are saying is, let's understand question number 4 के अंदर वो क्या बोल रहे हैं. Based on the passage, so these are the last two questions which we'll take before we end this session. Based on the passage, a steady state economist is most likely to claim that a successful economy is the one that satisfy which of the following principle. I repeat, what we are talking about is a steady state economist is most likely to claim that a successful economy is one that satisfy which of the following principles. Option A successful economy uses human-made resources in addition to the natural resources. So we are talking about human-made resources plus natural resources. But if you see steady state economists, they have not mentioned anything about human-made resources. They were a neoclassical economist, those who were talking about this. So my A option gets eliminated. When I'm talking about option number B, a successful economy satisfy human wants faster than it create new ones. They have not mentioned about satisfying the human want faster. All they have mentioned is you need to satisfy, you need to take care of all these things. Option C, a successful economy maintains an equilibrium with nature while still satisfying the human wants. Right? We are again and again we were talking about this particular particular sentence from last two questions, and that's what my answer is. That successful economy क्या होगी जो कि equilibrium maintain करे. A successful economy implements every possible means to prevent growth. No, you don't have to prevent growth. You have to make sure everything has to be taken care of while making sure that we use the resources properly. A successful economy satisfies the wants of producers and consumers by using resources to spur growth. No, using natural resources optimally. अगर ऐसा कुछ दिया होता तो I would have marked option number 3. इसलिए I'll mark option number C as the answer. If you have any questions, any doubts, please feel free to ask in the chat box for sure. And then we are coming with our last question from this particular passage. In the view of a steady state economist, which one of the following is a non-economic constraint as referred? Right? You have to read it like this. Okay. So in the view of steady state economist, which one of the following is a non-economic constraint? क्या non-economic constraint हो सकता है? And it has to be something related to a natural resources, I believe. ठीक है? And let's see कहाँ से natural resources आएगा. Total amount of human wants? No, as I said, it has to be something related to nature or a natural resources. The index of environmentally sustainable growth, okay. The capacity of nature to absorb waste, बिल्कुल हो सकता है. The problem associated with economic growth, the possibility of economic stagnation. Why? Again, please understand, they have said non-economic constraint होगा, जो कि नियो क्लासिकल थॉट ने बोला था नहीं होगा और स्टडी स्टेट ने बोला था होगा. एंड होगा तो क्या होगा? वो होंगे नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज. एंड व्हेन आई एम सेइंग नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज और नेचर, द कैपेसिटी ऑफ नेचर टू एब्जॉर्ब वेस्ट. इट्स नॉट द इंडेक्स. इंडेक्स से मुझे कोई लेना देना नहीं होगा. मुझे लेना देना होगा कि कितना अच्छी तरीके से, जो लास्ट में हमने बोला था, कितना अच्छी तरीके से कंजर्व कर सकते हैं. दैट इज समथिंग विच इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. So now if you understand, if you talk about these 5 questions what we have just solved, अगर आपने मेन आइडिया अच्छी तरीके से क्लिक कर लिया, which means अगर आपको ये पता लग गया है कि नियो क्लासिकल थॉट क्या कर रहा है, अगर आपको ये पता लग गया है कि स्टडी इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ क्या कर रहा है, इन दोनों का अगर आपको क्रक्स समझ में आ गया है, तो आई एम श्योर यू विल बी एबल टू एलिमिनेट ऑल द ऑप्शंस. राइट? सो दिस इज हाउ यू नीड टू अप्रोच द पैसेज. As I said, a 5-step process you need to take care of. You have to read the passage properly. Just try to get all the things in your mind. Just try to get the main idea. Questions padho, answer karo, and then keep on debating between the options. That's what the reading comprehension is all about. right? I hope I am clear. Please feel free to ask anything in chat box. I'm done with my session, right? And this is all about in today's session how to crack reading comprehension. With this, I'm signing off from this particular session. Thank you. This is my number. It's 9979848380. You can also mail me at prashant@ekoching.com if you have any more questions, any more doubts, any more queries, right? Please, thank you. Thanks a lot, and subscribe to this particular channel. And wherever you want more sessions like this, you will keep on getting the notification. So thanks a lot for listening to me. I hope you have enjoyed the session. Thank you.